the final moments of Jesus's life and to his death. And as I said before, this is one of the most important times in the church history and times in the Christian year. And I suspect many of the themes of this week really come because of what's happening, because of the violence. It certainly has hit home for me. That sense of being in isolation and to a certain extent feeling a little bit helpless as well. This last Sunday, we had a conversation, me and my son Carl, by video link. It was an interesting conversation because it was obvious that he had the virus. He looked unwell. He had very red eyes. He looked very pale. He looked feverish. And it was obvious that he had the virus as he was coughing. But he still wanted to have the conversation with myself and his dad. And it was lovely to be able to speak to him. But it was obvious because he was feverish, he wasn't able to really key into the conversation. And watching him on that link, looking at him, it made me feel quite powerless to do anything. I wanted to be with him because at the end of the day, I'm his mother. But I can't be with him. He is being looked after before you contact me, and his partner is looking after him as well, and he's beginning to recover. But when I looked at the Passion narrative, it really keyed in for me. When you think about Jesus at the last part of his life, up until this Holy Week celebration, he would have been a very popular rabbi. Everyone would have flocked to him to listen to him. They would have experienced his miracles and his words. And of course there was critics, but generally he was surrounded by his disciples who hung on every word and deed. He was surrounded by support and love. And as he journeyed towards the cross, everything changed. On his arrest, his disciples abandoned him. In many ways, he feels isolated. He's given up for arrest, for torture, and finally on those dusty roads, as he heads towards his crucifixion, carrying his cross on his back, I can only imagine what he was feeling. All that pain and suffering, not being able to reach out to his own mother who's on the roadside, who wanting desperately to reach out to him to comfort him. And yet he's there under his cross, isolated in his own pain and despair. And the only ones who know what that feels like are the two criminals who are going to be crucified with him. Along those dusty roads, he continues to heave that heavy cross until he gets to the Golgotha, where they crucify him. And as he's on the cross, still he cannot feel the touch of his own mother or the women that gather at the foot of the cross, or even his favourite disciple are kept at a distance. He's isolated on that cross in his pain and his suffering. And as I think of that image, it breaks my heart. His other disciples have abandoned him out of fear, are locked in the room. He's gone from being a popular rabbi, loved and supported by his disciples, to being alone on that cross. He cries out to God in his pain, not to be forgotten. But of course, that's not the end of the story. If that was the end of the story, it would be bleak indeed. But the story doesn't conclude until we get to the resurrection. Many people at this time are feeling isolated. For some people, they're able to keep in touch through social media, as we are now. But for others, they haven't got social media. Some people are not able to keep contact with many people at all. Some people might have no contact with anyone. I've phoned quite a few people over the last couple of weeks, and one or two of those people are feeling very isolated and alone. So I would encourage you to reach out to people. And if you're taking your daily exercise, and keeping your distance from people, please do say good morning to others. And if need be, pass time of day at a distance from one another. There are some people who are feeling so isolated. But also, if you have got social media, reach out to each other. Make sure at this time when we feel powerless to do anything but to go on, make sure you reach out to one another and support one another. Going back to that story of my son, even though I can't be with him, he knows that me and his dad and his family are with him in spirit, that we're still there for him, even if we can't physically be with him. He knows that we love him and support him, and that he only has to reach out to us and we'll be there at the other end of the line, so to speak, by phone or by WhatsApp or whatever media. When our Lord was on the cross, it may seem like he was alone, but he wasn't. All through his life and that lonely journey towards the cross, God is with him. And even though he cries out to our God on the cross, God is with him. He might not be able to see him, but he's there with him in spirit, crying and weeping alongside the women at the foot of the cross as he watches his own son die on that cross. As we approach the resurrection, remember that we are not alone. As Jesus knew on the cross that God was with him and that he proves the reality of the Messiah by rising from the dead, help us remember. It helps us to remember that the Lord is with us continuously. So as we face the days, the weeks, and possibly the months ahead, I would ask you to remember that you're not alone, that reach out to one another in whatever way you can, given the social distancing and the isolation that some people are. And if you know of somebody who doesn't have social media, but you can ring them or push a note through their door, do something to reach out so that they know they're not alone. Remember, we are not alone. Our Lord is here with us, supporting us, loving us, and he will see us come through the other side. And just as we'll experience the resurrection next Sunday, we will come out the other side of this stronger and more faithful. Amen.